Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final football experience. Not the final, but the one that discusses the
World Cup.
the World Cup one. At least
We'll be back in like 3 days talking about the Premier League.
precisely. Or should we just come back in 4 years and talk about the World Cup again?
No, but I think we should put it out there on the record who we think will win the next World Cup 4 years out.
Oh, dude, did you see that tweet? Someone in 2015. Or was it 2014? After it was. I think it was 2015. But someone tweeted out that Messi's gonna win in 2022 when he's 30. I think he's 35. So you got that wrong. So he said when he's 34 years old.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
That's the amazing part about the tweet. Like you predicted everything else right, but you didn't do the maths to get his age right. Like,
yeah. No, did Qatar actually have it in 2015? Like, was it announced in 2015 or no?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they. I can't remember exactly when it was announced, but
I
would have had to give him a long time.
But it probably wasn't announced that we need to check Messi's birthday, because if the World Cup was in June, then Messi might have been 34. So if it wasn't announced that it was going to be a winter World Cup,
the tweet wrote the date as well.
Oh yeah, it did too. Yeah,
December 19th or whatever.
Yeah, December 18th.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's.
How can you get that wrong?
You can't believe you got the maths wrong.
I question the whole validity of it.
Yeah, I need to ask one of my friends. I think he said that he put money on Argentina to win the tournament. So I wonder how much he put on and how much he lost. But we'll start with
before the tournament.
Yeah, I think it was before the tournament. I did the same thing in 2010. I think I put money on Spain to win, and I put money on Netherlands to make the final.
Good money.
Yeah, well, I won. I think I won like something like 150 or $200. So I only put like a tenner on or something, and Spain were the favourites at the time. Anyway. First of all, congratulations to Argentina. Far out, what a cracking match. What a final. What a crazy one. No, but what a final that it turned into, because after the first 45 minutes, after the first 45 minutes, I was like, France has not showed up. Like, has that virus like spread from more than 5 players? I didn't. Did you see who the players were that got the virus reportedly?
No, I haven't seen that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've heard it anywhere, seen it.
When I saw I saw a picture with 5 players, and like Giroud was one of them. I can't remember the other 4. I think Varane might have been another one. But like Giroud went off after 40 minutes, so I'm not. If he was one of the ones that got sick, I'm not surprised by it. But yeah, like. They did not show up after the first 45 minutes. Should I let you do the whole analysis of the final?
I think it would be remiss of us to start on France, because France are soon to become victim number 4 for my World Cup spiels. But yeah, no, you have to start with the champions. You have to start with Argentina. It's more a question: do you start with Argentina or do you start with Messi? Because obviously, I think the Messi market is very saturated, but we are a football pod, so we do have to acknowledge that Leo Messi may just. I don't even know if it's a may, because our friend Mateus messaged me just before we came on the pod. And I think he just said, is Messi GOAT now? And I responded back and I said, well, I don't know if you could come up with a valid argument against it, to be quite honest, at this stage after what he's just accomplished.
The only argument that you can come up...
I want to hear this, come on,
the only argument that you can come up against it, and this is what I've said in previous... Like, that for me, based on the eye test, but then he also has the accolades, is Ronaldinho. That I've seen, I haven't seen live in a stadium, but I've seen watching that's full games of.
That's your opinion, and you might have a peak opinion for 2 seasons. But Messi, I would still argue Messi's peak was higher than Ronaldinho's. You just have to look at output. I mean, it might not visually be as pleasing to you or I.
That's what I'm saying. Eye test.
Yeah, but the
eye test is subjective.
Well, it can be objective as well. You can try and make it as objective as possible. I still believe Messi is a better footballer. I think he can do more things. I think he does them at a higher level than Ronaldinho. But to your point, if I want to use subjective eye test, I prefer watching Ronaldinho because I think there was more of the unknown, more of the unexpected to his game, and he could do something new. Whereas I feel like we've seen nearly everything that Messi could do, and like it's sort of credit to him because he's played at such a high level that we can see everything that he can do more or less every week for maybe not the last couple of seasons, but before that, for that. And the other point is how long was his peak as well? How long did he perform at 50 goals a season for all of those years and racked up all those Champions League titles? I don't know. I just don't think that there's, if you want to look at it objectively in any way, I don't know if there can be an argument that this guy is now the greatest because of what he's done in the last 2 years. Now, if he didn't have that Copa and if he didn't have this World Cup now, I wouldn't put him as number one all time. That's for sure. I think I'd put others. But after what he's accomplished now, I can't come up with any argument against him being number one.
Yeah, look,
undisputed, kind of like Jordan in the NBA, I think.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree with that. Because, like, for instance, like Jordan does pass the eye test as well as being the greatest of all time. But like, no, like Messi's like accolades now. Also eye test, yeah, like he's a fantastic footballer. But like what you said, and I only threw Ronaldinho in there because in our generation, watching him, like he was majestic. And he, along with Messi, but like Ronaldinho, I think, because he played when we were kids. So like when you're a kid watching someone like that, you look at it differently. Like we don't see Messi as an idol type figure, being our age, but we saw Ronaldinho as an idol type figure for us. So you look at it a little bit differently, in a different sort of veil. But yeah, like now, along with accolades, and also Messi, I know the Euros and the Copa, some people will be like, oh, the Euros are harder to win and whatnot. Like or maybe like it has more people that watch it. I don't know. I don't know about that stat, but maybe it does. But like Messi now, he's one Copa away from equaling Spain's record. Like back with that 2008 to 2012 run where they won 2 Euros and a World Cup in between. So now if he wins the next Copa, he won Copa, World Cup, Copa.
And you know what's different about Messi, and to your point, I've always equated that those 2 continental titles are a 1-1. If
they should be.
It's a fantastic achievement. Other continental titles you could put maybe a tier below, but those two are the top for me. But yeah, I think the difference between this and Spain was very. See, and here's the thing, because I want to talk about Messi and I want to talk about Argentina, because Argentina need to be talked about as well, and I've been trying to say for a while, despite what the narrative around them has been, that I think they're quite a good side. They're not a really good side, but they don't have to be a really good side at international level. They're a really solid side with not many weaknesses, so we'll go into them. But Messi with this Argentina team is undoubtedly the main man, and he has to play to a high level for them to accomplish the things that they've accomplished in the last two major tournaments. Whereas I think Spain was very much a collective. You could even have any of those midfielders injured, and you could bring in a world-class midfielder, or you could try and fit them all in the team like they did in 2010 with Alonso, Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, all in the same team. So. I thought that Spain team and the defense for that Spain team was unbelievable as well. So that team was stacked. Whereas this Argentina team, as a team, I definitely don't put them on that level. That's another interesting thing that you could start if you wanted to start doing fun things with the World Cup. You could do previous champions versus each other.
I don't think they beat the Spain team, to be honest. Spain.
No, absolutely not. No way. You could have a question between this Argentina team and the last French team, but even then, I think the fact that this French team pushed them to where they did, I think the 2018 France team would probably beat them as well. So you could argue that it's one of the weaker champions. I certainly wouldn't take that away from them, but yeah, I guess stacking them up against other teams, how you perceive them in your head. But yeah, Messi's very much the headline for these two things, and these are the two. And what's happened in the last couple of years? I've got to steal this. I can't remember where I heard it. It might have been just a sentiment from Argentina, but I think this is true as well, because we are obviously friends with a couple of Argentinians, and we follow the narrative through them a lot of the time. And Messi for a long time was seen as Spanish by Argentinians. Because he went over to Spain at such a young age, and he'd played for Argentina obviously, but he never demonstrated the leadership, and probably more importantly for Argentina and Argentinian people, the passion when he played for Argentina. But what's happened in the last couple of years is he's taken on the responsibility to be the leader and to somewhat be the emotional leader as well of the team, which for probably the last decade when Messi was at his peak, you couldn't say that about Leo Messi. He was never really an emotional leader. Even for example, that game at Anfield where I thought he had his last truly great season in 2019. Remember, he got ruffled early in that game, and then there wasn't really that much of a response from him from that point. So, I think this Messi, if you throw him into that environment at Anfield, I think he'd deal with it better a couple of years later down the track, because I think he somewhat embraced being that emotional leader and showing that passion, especially for Argentina. And he's made it no secret that he's geared everything up to this World Cup. It'll be interesting to see if he even comes back for PSG now. But I mean, this was the holy grail. This was the thing that was, I think it was always the thing that was going to make it. Look, there is one thing that he could still do that would make it absolutely irrefutable for me, and that would be to cap this all off by winning the Champions League with PSG and being a main part of that. If he can show that at the club level, he can translate his greatness from club to club, even though he probably won't be the main man for PSG. He might even be the third option. But if he could continue how he played at the start of the season into the second half and be a major factor in PSG winning a Champions League, there's nothing I can pick a hole at in his resume and in his case. And yeah, to translate your talent like that on top of winning in a season where you've won the World Cup would just make it irrefutable. I still think it's pretty much there. And yeah, I think let's put the crown on his head, because this guy we have witnessed, and we've been football loving for all of it pretty much, but we've witnessed probably the greatest career of all time. For now.
Yeah, but also
for now?
Yeah, for now. But also
there's a guy who might have scored a hat-trick in this game who's peeping.
Yeah. But to your point though, I think the other thing if you add on top of it is, and I think we mentioned in the previous pod or the one prior to that, where you made the comparison of this Argentina team to the 86 team, where the team itself isn't that great, but you put one great leader in there. And I think that's one of the things that I noticed was this tournament, Messi seemed to almost play with a sort of attitude or with a chip on his shoulder. He was a little bit more riled up. I saw him always talking to the ref, a little bit angrier. Whereas
he played Argentinian.
Yeah, whereas generally
like an Argentinian. Yeah,
generally when you see him play, you don't see him play angry, or I'm not saying that he was frowning the whole time, but he had a little bit of a frown on his face for most of the games. Whereas when he played for Barcelona, when he plays for PSG, or previously when he played for Argentina, he was just still, you couldn't really see whether he was happy or mad. Whereas now it was he seemed a little angry. You could tell that by his demeanor.
Well, I think Wout Weghorst could tell that in the tunnel after that game against the Netherlands, couldn't he?
but yeah, he seemed I'm not going to say man possessed, because man possessed is usually a term for people that are playing above their level, whereas Messi was finally playing at his level for the national team. Especially if you compare this.
Let's be clear. This level isn't like his peak in the last decade.
Yeah, that too.
We saw. But and I think that makes it almost more charming for me. He did it almost as a mortal. It wasn't a cheat code like it felt like for all those years at Barcelona, where it just felt like someone had hacked into football and just created someone who's just ridiculously good at it. This one, he felt human during this World Cup. He felt like a very exceptional human, but like that's to the point. That's how well he played in this World Cup, because he picked his moments perfectly. But yeah, it wasn't like the invincible 91 goals in a calendar year sort of Messi stuff. This was he had to be economic. He had to do it as an old guy, and wow, what a performance! 7 goals to three assists was it in the tournament?
Yeah, but he still
in the final.
Yeah, but four of them were penalties. So look, I know some people are going to take that away from him. Maybe he
not. Also missed a penalty as well.
Yeah, against Chesney. Yeah. But even so, like I don't like a sort of sidetrack, but like I know a penalty is a goal. Like a goal is a goal at the end of the day, and it counts towards your stats. But like, how do you sort of rate penalties? Like, do you sort of degrade them a little bit, or?
It's a tough one,
especially when you put them into the tallies.
It is a tough one. I don't think I degrade them, but I
do you asterisk
if
them?
There's No, I don't do that. But if there's an accomplishment where there isn't penalties, I'll use a prime example. Luis Suarez's 31 goals for Liverpool in the 13-14 season. That accomplishment is greater than Cristiano Ronaldo's 31 goals in the 07-08 season, when they were the joint record holders of the Premier League for 2 reasons, actually. One was because Suarez started that season suspended, and I think he missed the first 6 or 7 games for biting Branislav Ivanovic the season before. His second biting incident. Second of 3.
Wait, what about the season where he was racist towards Evra? He missed like 8 games or something as well.
Yeah, I think that was 2 seasons before this. Okay. So I think it was the Ivanovic the season before this one. It's a mess. The most infamous footballer of our lifetime, and there's been a few, but I still put Suarez as right up there. And 2, he didn't take a penalty. He didn't score a penalty that season. And also, if you ever have the chance to watch a compilation of that on YouTube, the 31 goals of that season, the goals are just absolutely off the charts. So yeah, I don't diminish penalty goals, but if he was able to score, say someone scored 6 goals and none came from the penalty spot, I'd probably rate that as maybe a higher achievement than 7 with 4 penalties.
Yeah, well, I know we'll get onto Mbappe, but Mbappe's was 8 with 2 penalties, for instance.
Yeah, and 2 in the final.
Yeah. All right, so are we in agreement that even does Messi win the Ballon d'Or even if he doesn't win the Champions League? And whether or not he wins the Champions League, is he? I think he still goes down as the greatest of all time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's only an exclamation mark that he can put on it by winning the Champions League.
Do you think he wins the Ballon d'Or then? Because I know this World Cup falls in 2022. It's given for 2023. If he doesn't win the Champions League,
I think he will, but it will be interesting. The only thing that I can see how it not happening is if that scenario plays out that he doesn't even go back to PSG and he doesn't even report back.
I don't know.
I think he will, but
why would he not go back?
Would you be shocked if he just said, "I'm done with football now. Like I've accomplished everything." That will be your enduring memory of me, lifting the World Cup trophy there, and I'm off. Goodbye.
Yeah. Wait, can we? While we're still Messi, the Qataris, man, after such a fantastic
with the robe.
after I know we'll get into this later. We'll talk about the actual World Cup itself as a spectacle, but like after such an amazing World Cup, for that to be the final picture of the whole Argentina team like celebrating in the Argentina shirts, and then you put Messi in a fucking robe. What the hell were they thinking?
It's not just that it was a robe. It looked like a grandma's robe.
Yeah, it's like, oh, are you cold here? Like, just put it over. And like, what the hell were you thinking? If it was like
you know what? Cool. If it was a Versace robe. And he's just like, and they put the crown on his head.
Okay, yeah.
And put him on a throne as well. All right, can we just go all out? No, you know what they needed? I was thinking while you were talking about how atrocious that robe was, because it was bad.
Yeah, because it was like see-through as well, and like.
Yeah, I know. I think they still wanted to get the Argentinian shirt in. It just didn't work. But what I reckon they should have done. They should have. I think the England player who swapped with Maradona in '86 sold the shirt recently for like £5 million or something. They should have bought that Diego Maradona's 1986 match-worn shirt against England and put it on Messi at the end. And as homage to the great man who's obviously RIP. So that would have been the picture.
I don't know if that's a good idea, but like it's still like the whole point for me. Like I'm not like OCD in regards to organization, but like the for the picture, like having the main man out of place, like it doesn't like even if he was wearing an Argentina shirt, because it is a different design, it still would look out of place, and because it's a team photo. This just makes it. Oh man, like Qatar.
You know what was arguably as cringe for me? The way Infantino and the I don't know, the prince or whatever, they were like ushering Messi towards the team. It's like, he knows where to go, guys. So let him go. What are we doing? It's like he's a child. And Infantino wanted to speak for so long. It's like, dude, this isn't your moment. Just let it go.
They didn't show the speaking or anything like that here, but they did show obviously the lifting of the trophy and all that. But was the speaking afterwards or?
Just like him speaking to Messi before he gave him the World Cup and all of that stuff. It's just like, come on, dude.
I thought they also did like the sort of, you know how for the Australian Open you have all the organisers that speak, and then they let the champions speak and the runner-up speak. What a moment ruined. Like
not ruined.
Hang on.
Definitely the shine taken off it.
Hang on.
That see-through.
You know, a lot of people. You know how you get like canvases made and stuff like that. A lot of people are gonna get like a canvas made of like, you know, especially Argentinians. They're gonna get like that photo of the whole team lifting. And it's like,
yeah, but we live in a technological world. Just shop it out. If you really just get rid of it.
If it can be done, but they just ruined it. they ruined a fantastic World Cup with the fucking
World Cup
with a fucking Voldemort looking robe. Like, fuck off.
I should have put the sorting hat on him. Oh my god.
Fucking Dumbledore comes in. He's like, "Oh, penalty for Argentina." Okay. I think for some people, they probably thought that's what it seemed like. Anyway, to the game. Caleb, take it away.
The game or to Argentina? I guess we could do it. We could do it all in one.
Well,
but
technically, the first half was Argentina's, so you can just talk about that.
Well, I guess I'll start on the bigger picture. And one thing, beyond the football, one thing that kind of shocked me and I loved, maybe it was arguably my moment of the night. And this is saying something because we just witnessed an incredible, maybe the best ever World Cup final. But when Enzo Fernandez got the young player of the tournament, that was maybe my favorite moment.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't him.
It was Enzo Fernandez, one young player of the tournament.
Wasn't it Molina?
No, not Molina, bro. It was Enzo, trust me. Enzo won young player of the tournament.
I need to check that, but go on.
Are you looking it up? Are you gonna?
I'm gonna look it up, but go on.
I think that was arguably. All right, outside of football, definitely my favorite moment because I thought it would definitely be. I think obviously Guardiola had a good shout. Maybe that semi-final showing didn't allow him to get it, and it was probably more convenient because Argentina were already there. But I thought probably Alvarez had a good shout, considering he just scored 4 goals as well. I thought they might just look at the goals and give it to Alvarez. So I was really happy when Enzo Fernandez got it because I thought, as I've been saying this whole tournament, it's no coincidence that Argentina lost their first game to Saudi Arabia and then didn't lose again once he became at least a part of the starting 11. He did. I can't remember if he started against Mexico, but Scaloni rectified that one very quickly. Brought in someone who, as I keep saying, changed the tempo of Argentina because I don't think that midfield with Paredes functions the way it does, like it did with Enzo. It was interesting because I guess, and like you could give, if we keep going through credit, obviously Emi Martinez, Golden Glove winner as well, along with Messi, obviously Golden Ball winner, so they nearly got the clean sweep. And Mbappe's hat-trick obviously gives him the golden shoe, but yeah, I think it's fair that Argentina actually had these awards given to him. I do think that it's funny when you think about it because Emi Martinez is at Aston Villa, so you think about him getting ready for the Boxing Day fixtures as he gets ready to put on his Villa uniform after being the best.
I don't think he'll play. I reckon they're going to give these guys a week off at least.
You know, I think there's Carabao Cup in the midweek as well. Can you imagine seeing a World Cup winner just strutting out for the Carabao Cup in midweek?
Yeah, and getting knocked out to like Roxham or some shit like that.
Yeah, they'd be looking a bit worse for wear, I dare say, even halfway through the week. But yeah, Emi Martinez was fantastic coming through 2 penalty shootouts and the crucial one today, and you just fancied Argentina once it went to penalties.
Yeah.
I did. I fancied that they had the better penalty takers, and I definitely fancied they had the better keeper as well. And it showed both those things as well in there. So the centre-backs, Otamendi finally had his mistake today. I mean, like, you can't go, 7 games? You can't go a whole 7 games without Otamendi making a mistake. So he brought that one out for the final. Romero obviously was probably culpable in the Saudi Arabia game. Maybe his positioning was more of a third centre-back for Mbappe's second goal, which is, for me, the goal of the game. But still played pretty well in between sort of that book ending for Romero. I thought he was pretty good, especially as one of the 2 when I haven't really been convinced by him. Molina, as I think I mentioned last pod, provided valuable running down that right-hand side because they needed someone to... Well, apart from obviously DePaul, who's got his, I guess, share of credit for the running he does, although people don't like the way he looks on the ball, which is fair because I don't really like him I don't really like DePaul as a player, but I think the function that he performs for Argentina is so valuable, particularly to Messi. And I guess, like, in summary, when you give everyone praise, Julian Alvarez as well, even Di Maria deserves his praise.
Man, can I just cut you off?
In the first...
DePaul, it sort of reminds me of Rakitic for Barcelona, like where he did the extra running for Messi.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Except the difference, obviously, is Rakitic is a very good footballer, and DePaul is bang average. But he does the running. That's the main thing. McAllister was probably his best game of the tournament today as well. So neat and tidy. So I think even looking forward for this Argentina team. Even when they don't have Messi, you have to say at least the talent, when you think Lisandro Martinez is also on the bench, you have to say at least the talent is there for them to still be a very good international side for the coming years and come into that 2026 World Cup. I think they should be in good shape. I mean, 4 years is a long time, but just looking at the profile of the squad, obviously apart from the main man, it should be reaching their peak, a lot of those players, and they should be playing at a good level. So, but one thing I will say, obviously, just to finish up on Argentina before we go into the match, It'll be interesting to see how they play without Messi, obviously, and I'm not breaking ground, but it'll be interesting from the fact that what they had in this World Cup in particular, I think was the clearest goal for every player in the squad. Everyone was united by one thing, and that was winning Messi the World Cup. It was, of course, every player who's there, some may dream, some may think that they can win the World Cup. Everyone's there to try and win the World Cup, especially if you're a big nation. But Argentina had the added incentive which bound everyone in the squad together, which was we're all doing it for him. And obviously that's inherently Argentinian ever since Maradona in '86. So for players like DePaul, obviously, Exhibit A, to go down in history sort of as this guy who helped one of his country's great footballers, I think Argentinians definitely take pride in that. And you could see that in their performances throughout the World Cup. And that's, I think, something that made these average players for their clubs, like a Molina, like a DePaul, they made them into something even better in this World Cup. So I think maybe you can look at that and say, well, Argentina weren't the best team in the tournament. Yeah, that's somewhat fair, because if other teams had reached their ceiling, I think there were better teams in the tournament, like Brazil, like even France, who finally decided to show up for the last 30 minutes. And I mean of the whole tournament, not just this game. I thought that was the only time in the whole tournament that they played how they should have played. The French were, Deschamps, that's a bit later. But Argentina, I think they did their job. They did what they could do, and they were all bound by one extra common goal, which, I don't know, makes them worthy champions for me. The team, not just Messi.
Yeah, I can agree with that, especially the way they showed up in the first 45. They definitely made their mark. They're like, okay, we're winning. They out of both teams, they showed up. Out of both teams that showed up, Argentina said, "This is our World Cup. We're winning it." Because we said it like when we opened the pod, like France just didn't show up at all in that first half. And then,
take me through the match. Go. Let's go into the match.
Right.
I'll let you start. I want to know what you thought.
Well, out of both the teams, like France just looked old, lackluster, slow, out of ideas for the first half, maybe even for the first like 60, 70 minutes, out of ideas. But Argentina, go on.
Well, yeah, before you go on, before we go into it more, I just want to offer a theory beyond the flu. And I thought this was pretty critical after the semi-finals, and why I was so disappointed with France after the semi-finals in particular. I think Argentina got their chance to sort of feel confident in the semi-final, in that they were able to comfortably beat Croatia 3-0. Now, obviously, if they don't get those two sort of somewhat fortunate goals, we could have had a different story. But the fact was, it was a 3-0 game. Messi obviously produces a moment of magic. Alvarez gets his 2 goals. The whole team just sort of coasted to the final and felt confident doing so. France never played well enough in the knockout stages at any point to get their confidence up so that they could be a good footballing team. Even against Morocco, they were so passive, and that was a Morocco team I thought were there for the beating, and they just didn't take advantage of it. They never got their confidence up, so they came into this game thinking passive could do it again, whereas Argentina were like, hey, we feel pretty good. We just cruised to our semi-final. We're confident here. And I thought you could tell for the first 60 minutes of that game.
Yeah, like I 100% agree with that. Like they just were playing with, like not just like you said, confidence, but also a self-assurance, knowing that they can and will win as well. Whereas France, they just seemed like a shell of themselves for whatever reason, until Deschamps had to actually, I don't know, I guess take the brakes off and put put pretty much like almost a whole new team in there, especially in the midfield, like bringing on Camavinga.
Well, let's be honest. The changes that he made, I think, were just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what would stick. I don't think it was like a tactical mastermind. I think it had some good effects, but it came across to me as very much, all right, we got to put something different on just for the sake of it because we're getting killed.
Yeah, but the thing is, the changes, they did make an impact, like bringing on Koeman, bringing on Camavinga, bringing on Koulibaly. Thuram, I'm not sure he really made an impact, but like, I don't know, I guess it offered a different a different
he
threat
provided
up
the
front.
assist for that brilliant Mbappe second goal, the equaliser.
Yeah, but then he also decides to dive instead of continuing on his run and going 1-on-1 with the keeper as well. Like, oh,
well done. Well, we always criticise referees. Well done, Simon Marciniak. I thought he had a very good game.
Yeah, I can say that.
A World Cup final. Had to give penalties, but I think all of them were penalties. And
yeah. I need to see the Argentina one again, because on first glance I'm like, oh, that's a penalty, but like then when they showed the replay, it seemed like maybe the angle that they showed it on, maybe I need to see it again and maybe a little bit slower, but it's because like I didn't see that he clipped Dembele's knee or anything like that. But I saw that I think Di Maria like tripped over his own foot, but he might have tripped over his own foot after he clipped the knee. So I think it was that. Yeah, because
that's what my viewing was.
Yeah, because I need to, like I said, I need to see it again. But like, but I'm sure I'm hopeful VAR saw it and they're like, okay, he didn't just trip. He tripped over his own feet because he clipped the knee. Do you think the penalty was a little bit soft, on the softer side, or no? Because like, if you're running,
it was a penalty. Dembele already gets skinned, and then he gets too tight to Di Maria, and we know what Di Maria wants to do, but Dembele gives him a reason to do it.
Where did Di Maria get this burst of speed and like this sharpness? Where the hell did that come from?
That's what I was going to ask you. Were you surprised to see Di Maria A start and B start on the left hand side?
I didn't.
And what do you?
I wasn't really surprised. I wasn't really surprised. I was more surprised that he actually put in a performance. Like he wound back the clock. Like it was almost like he was playing back in Real Madrid.
Well, obviously him being put on the left hand side allows him to play to his favoured foot, where he doesn't really have to beat anyone. If he doesn't want to, he can put it across sort of first time if he wants from there, and he's a pretty good deliverer of the ball. But I found it interesting, and I think, look, while not being able to explicitly understand why Scaloni did it, I think maybe he just wanted to play on the other side of the pitch. So Argentina made it a key point to try and find Di Maria nice and wide on that side of the pitch, and he didn't want
he
the opportunity.
Was getting so much space.
Yeah, and I think the thinking was because normally you'd think, let's target Theo Hernandez because he's not going to be protected by Mbappe, and he's probably the weakest defender out of the four in the back four. But it was interesting because they went to the other side, and my only thinking is it was probably to keep the ball away from Theo Hernandez and Kylian Mbappe on that side of the pitch, so that like they couldn't win the ball back on that side and then counter. That's maybe something that I thought of. And then obviously to start Di Maria on that side as well, I think he wanted to keep it as a back four because it had obviously worked in the semi-final. And I speculated he might go to a back five. But it was crucial for him, obviously, by Di Maria starting on the left, that he wanted to keep DePaul on the right so that he could track Theo Hernandez and help double up on Kylian Mbappe. So, yeah, I thought that was the interesting tactical maneuver. Apart from that, I think Argentina, as can be expected, got on top in the midfield. I thought, and we'll get to this when the French make their changes later, but Giroud was getting murdered by Enzo Fernandez in particular, because normally your striker needs to sort of at least cut off the channels for the centre-backs to play the ball into the holding midfielder. Enzo Fernandez just had way too much energy for Giroud to get anywhere near him. So anytime he wanted to move, he could just move away from Giroud, pick up the ball, and as I've already said numerous times, what I love about Enzo Fernandez in the holding role is he always looks to play forward. So Griezmann and Giroud in particular, allowing him to get on the ball was a huge reason why I thought Argentina controlled territory and dominated the game in the middle. And as well, we've already lamented that we think the middle of the park is France's maybe weakest spot, whereas it's probably Argentina's strongest spot, especially when you start thinking Messi can drop into those pockets and help out as well. So, I thought they killed him in the middle of the park, and France playing such that as we keep saying, passive, horizontal style of football where they don't want to make it an in-your-face, end-to-end game. We'll get onto them, but yeah, they were thoroughly outclassed for 60 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. So you've already sort of made your assessment of the changes that France made in saying that it wasn't necessarily a tactical masterstroke.
I might be being unfair because they obviously did have very good consequences, and the main very good consequence is all of a sudden you had this mobility across the front three so that Enzo Fernandez wasn't just running away from the central striker anymore, and they could apply some sort of pressure higher up the pitch, which they obviously couldn't with Giroud. And I thought it was interesting when he took off Theo Hernandez, and I know I'm a big fan of Theo Hernandez, but I thought he just started playing like Theo Hernandez at the time that he got taken off. He was actually going forward and looking to deliver and looking to overlap. And when we come to the French criticism later, we'll touch on it. But for the first 60 minutes, he did none of that. But Camavinga did quite well when he came on at left back, which you wouldn't have thought so if you watched the Tunisia game in that last group stage game when he did play at left back there as well. And he was terrible. He got found out. But that was an interesting change. But I thought taking Giroud and Griezmann, which would go against what you would think, but they were the ones that I think changed the game most because I don't want to say this because I do love Antoine Griezmann, but I think his performances in this World Cup have been a little bit overstated. I think we've got excited by the fact that he's performing this job that we haven't seen him do before. So we're just like, oh, wow, that's amazing. He can do that. And to be fair, he does it to an exceptionally high level, and he did throughout the tournament. But I don't think he's as solid as having an actual central midfielder. If they had Pogba or Kante, he's definitely not as solid as having someone like that in there. He plays in there because I think Deschamps trusts him more than he trusts Rabiot. But there's still holes and there's still pockets around him because at the end of the day, he is still an inexperienced central midfielder. And to be fair to him, he's trying to do the role of two players. So I think taking him and Giroud off really helped the French press. And when they started playing with intensity and with pressure, how they should have been playing the whole tournament, the whole match changed because as we saw against Saudi Arabia, and yes, Saudi Arabia were fortunate to win the game, but Argentina don't like it if you get in their face. Argentina do not like it if you play high-intensity football. And the French, you look at them to a man all over the park, they are better physical specimens than Argentina. So why would you not press home that advantage and play a more vertical style where you play more man-to-man football and you get in their faces more? The French tactics really annoyed me. The whole tournament.
Tell us how you feel, Caleb. No, but I agree. Like once they brought on these younger, quicker players, the game suddenly had energy. Like even in the first half, Mbappe wasn't getting on the ball. His demeanor seemed like he was disinterested. He was like, "Oh, I can't be stuffed playing this game."
You know what it was?
It
was shades of Ronaldo '98. That's what I felt watching it. It's like, did the flu hit him as well? Is there something wrong with him? Hasn't touched the ball.
Yeah, like and he wasn't, not that he wasn't even touching the ball, but like he wasn't even interested in trying to open up to receive the ball either. Like, so there was that factor as well. So it's not just like, oh, they're cutting off the passing lanes to him. It's like you're not even moving to find space so that your players can potentially hit you. But then once the subs, once the shit on the wall, as you put it, started making their impact and started to stick. Then you start to see Mbappe start to take control of the game a little bit more, start to get on the ball, pick it up in a little bit more in the midfield, start to drive at the defense a bit more as well. And France started to get their rewards for it. And then it started to become the Messi versus Mbappe show. You're just like, who wants... Like, they both these guys seem to be taking over the game, especially like after Mbappe gets his 2 goals and then Messi gets his goal as well. In extra time to put himself at the forefront of winning the Golden Boot, and then Mbappe's like, "Nah, this Golden Boot is mine."
Imagine if he did the clean sweep. Just he's standing on the stage with the World Cup trophy and the ball and the boot.
Yeah, he almost had it. Like,
he almost had it.
If it didn't go to pens, he would have had it.
Jeez. All right, let's do the French bit. Let's do the French bit.
All right,
I think it's time.
You probably have a lot more to say than what I do.
Well, it goes right off the back of the analysis of the game, and I still can't believe that Deschamps thought this was the best way to win with the squad that he had.
Against the team that he was playing against.
And against the team, obviously. But I want to focus on the whole tournament, let alone just this. Because when we look at it, Australia, I know Australia made the round of 16, but how much can you take from a game against Australia? They're not a very good team, okay? Denmark proved to not be a very good team. They were so stale at this World Cup. They were nothing. I thought that was France's probably best performance of the whole tournament against Denmark. And they only won that 2-1. And again, against a Denmark team that finished on 1 point for the whole World Cup. Tunisia, they obviously lose the game. Yes, he makes all the changes, but I don't know, your team's not playing that well anyway. Could you have not kept a few players in the team just so that maybe some cohesion could build there? Because the team he trotted out, like I said at the time, I think it had 6 central midfielders in it, like Camavinga playing at left back. It's just like, well, what's the benefit of doing this, apart from obviously getting some rest? But you just lose any momentum you had from those first 2 games of winning. I know you want the rest, but at the same time, surely there's players who could benefit from doing something beneficial to go into the next round when you're not playing well. Then obviously throughout the whole knockout stage, I thought they were really poor. We talked about how poor Poland were and how somewhat fortunate they were to get out of the group. Oh, thinking of that group as well, I've got to go back to this because I remember at the time when we were doing the review pod and that Mexico's last group stage game. And I said that I think his name's Chavez. I think that Chavez free kick will be the free kick of the tournament. You're like, oh, big call. It was undoubtedly the free kick of the tournament. Nothing. You could
wait. Goal or free kick?
No, not goal, but free kick. But the Dutch one, maybe for stakes and when it happened and how they did it, maybe you could put above it. But aesthetically, that Chavez one, he hit that so clean. It was so nice. But anyway, I digress. Poland, we'll talk about how poor they were to get out of that group. France could have been 1-0 down in that game. And they got a goal on the stroke of half-time that made that game a lot more comfortable than it actually was, to be fair. Then quarterfinals, I thought they should have lost to England on the balance of play. I thought England were pretty comfortably the better team. I know France took their moments better, but yeah, England, like on another day, they wouldn't have their first goal because Saka would have been called for that foul against him, and Kane would have slotted in that second penalty. So, yeah, I thought England deserved to go through there. And then Morocco, well established. I think Morocco were fantastic, but I thought they were somewhat there for the taking at that point of the tournament. And France continued to do their passive act. And look, if Deschamps is going to play this way, I want him to leave that post because that team's way more exciting than that style of crap that he put out there for the World Cup. I thought, and my big crying shame, and I don't want to sound like a fanboy or anything, but I thought Theo Hernandez could be pivotal to the way that this France team played, especially without Kante and Pogba, because I thought he could have given the midfield creativity. I know he plays as a left back, but often for AC Milan, you see him pick up the ball in the middle of the park and drive it forward, make overlapping runs, make underlapping runs, drive the ball on the inside channel. He creates so much at club level, and I thought it was very clear that he was stifled from doing this in this World Cup. I thought every time he got the ball, all he wanted to do was either pass sideways or forwards and then hold position. And that's not Theo Hernandez. Like, what's the point of using him like that? That's not his qualities. His qualities are to create things for the team, not just bomb forward as a left back, but actually create in different areas of the pitch. And France never unlocked that in the whole tournament. And so that's like the key example for me, beyond what we were saying, what happened in the final, where they go to this more vertical style of play, and it just benefits more of their players. Because I think physically, France were probably, maybe apart from Brazil, the best team in the whole tournament. And when you can mesh that physicality with supreme intelligence and technique, and most importantly, what we didn't see, a good tactical game plan, they should be winning this tournament or be playing Brazil in the final if every team is playing to their level. But they didn't play to their level, and Argentina capitalised on it. So, yeah, I think Deschamps needs to take this one on the chin. He needs to do... It's funny because he came into the tournament looking to play that 5 at the back and then changed it. So you could say maybe he heard the criticism and he's adjusting it, much like in the mould of Gareth Southgate for England. But as you saw their style progress through the tournament, it was evident that he's not changed shit. They're just going to play this crappy football and hope that it's enough. And look, they did make the World Cup final. I get that, but I thought the ceiling for this team was much higher. And I think especially once you get to this game against a team that, for me, you still should be beating, I think Deschamps has to take that one.
Yeah, especially after you see that, like all right, if he made the changes and like Argentina still won 2-0 or 2-1, for instance, then you could be like, okay, like fair enough. But like the fact that we actually saw France's potential and we saw them unlocked for 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the game, if you include extra time, you're like, what the hell was Deschamps thinking? So that makes that fact makes it even more evident that Deschamps got it wrong, and that he is basically putting the shackles on this team, because him bringing on those players, him changing things, that's him taking the shackles off. So that's him being a pragmatic coach and playing more defensively than what this team should be playing. You could argue that for tournaments of 7 games, playing more pragmatic more or less wins you the tournament. Like it did in 2018, they did play more defensively than what we expected them to.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I just want to put a sentence or two on that. The reason why that was a better tactic was because they had better players to do that, especially in the midfield. Yeah, exactly right. I just think, like, when you think about it and you think back in your head, for me, they look so much more solid in 2018. This team was, when they were trying to do the sit-back thing, I think they were still giving up good territory and some good chances when they did that, and it was unnecessary for me to do it in that manner.
Yeah, and we spoke about, for instance, the meta of this tournament and what type of football is most likely going to win you games. And like, for instance, Argentina played, at least in the first half, they pressed quite a bit. Against Croatia, they pressed quite a bit. In all of their games, they did press and play on the front foot. Maybe not like a pressing as intense as Morocco, for instance, but that seemed to have been the style that won the tournament. But like, if France have played that way from the opening whistle against Argentina, the way that they played the last half an hour against Argentina, then this could have been a completely different game. But they started off with the shackles on. And
just to put a bow on this in the match in general, you know what was the biggest, like, the shock moment was like when it all clicked and when you knew France should have been playing this way, especially in this matchup, was when Kingsley Coman sacked, as they say in NFL. He sacked Messi when he had the ball and he took it off him. And I'm just thinking, you could have done that all game, honestly. Like, you are the better athletes. You could have got in their faces and made this game physical all game, and you could have cut the head off the snake. Because Messi, while being supremely clever, I don't think he stands up to the physical test like he used to be able to at this age. And obviously, he was never gifted with supreme speed, obviously great acceleration and that close control, but speed over yards and yards was never really a thing. And so I just think they could have got in, especially his face, but the whole team's face. And yeah, and that moment was quite incredible in of itself, because obviously they go up and I think scored the equalizer after dispossessing Messi. And you're just thinking, wow, after this whole narrative of Messi doing all of this, are they going to lose to France because he lost the ball in midfield? And that's how it all ends for him. That was the roller coaster of the last, 45 minutes, including extra time. Unbelievable, yeah. Definitely made it at least one of, if not the best final ever.
Yeah, had that have not happened, it would have been like it would have reminded me a lot of I'm gonna say Liverpool Tottenham Champions League final, but you'd probably argue that Liverpool were a little bit boring in that, whereas at least Argentina weren't boring in the first half. Argentina actually came to play.
Argentina were never boring.
Yeah,
Argentina were never boring the whole tournament. If it looked comfortable for Argentina, they're just like, this is a bit too comfortable, isn't it? Why don't we just concede a goal or two and we'll go to extra time and penalties?
But you get my point where it's Liverpool sort of did show up, but Tottenham didn't show up at all. And this isn't me as an Arsenal fan going back but it's just one that sort of pops immediately to mind, where it's like one team shows up, one team doesn't. And France didn't show up at all. And it would have just gone down as a sort of not a boring final, but it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah. Argentina, I feel, would have been praised a lot more if they just held on to the 2-0, because they were very good for the first 60 minutes.
Yeah. But then it turned out to be you need to, since you love doing deep dives, you would need to go back and do a deep dive of the previous finals that we've had. It probably could go down as one of the greatest finals that we've had.
Well, off the top of my head, you've got. I really like 58, because I think that Brazil team is maybe the best team of all time, and they give Sweden somewhat of a shellacking, and they play really well. So I'd put it up there. That, as along with that Brazil 70 team, if you're looking for great teams who are playing well in finals, you'd put those two there. And then the one off the top of my head, funnily enough, is Maradona in '86 with Argentina.
That was a 3-2, wasn't it?
They were 2-0 up. Argentina again. Germany. I guess at least it was the Germans, but they came back, and 2 set-piece goals brings it back to 2-2. And then I think a couple of minutes after they made it 2-2, Maradona sets up, I think it might have been Valdano for the winner. So, yeah, off the top of my head, they're the ones that come to me. But yeah, I think, and obviously the last thing we got to finish off, and sort of is our segue to look to the future a little bit, or whatever we choose to do, but Kylian Mbappe becoming only the second player to score a hat-trick in a World Cup final after Jeff Hurst in 1966, especially after, as you say, what we saw from him for the first 70-odd minutes. I think if you asked anyone on the planet, is Kylian Mbappe going to even score a goal tonight, I don't think they would have said yes, let alone the hat-trick that he ends up scoring. And that second goal was unbelievable, I got to say. The headed 1-2, the header for the 1-2 to just think that quick was immense. And then obviously the technique for the volley. And it was just France coming out of absolutely nowhere. And if I had to sum up the whole final, I would say perfect. I think the final was perfect. I think Messi deserved a World Cup. He got the World Cup. Do I love that Messi got a World Cup? Maybe not, because I kind of like the debate of who is the greatest of all time. And now Messi seems to have somewhat taken that. Yeah, it's somewhat taken it out of our hands. Like, if he just won the Golden Ball but ended up losing in the final again, then I think we got a juicier debate. But the fact that they go on to win it, but I think it was fitting. And then, obviously, the Prince killing Mbappe with a hat-trick. I thought for him to get something out of it, for the two best players, the ones that we're all looking for, to score 5 of the combined 6 goals, to have an epic like that, and to have Argentina and Messi finish on top. I think it was all just fitting and kind of worked out perfectly, really. Maybe too perfectly, if you want to go back to that. your phrasing before.
I'm not alluding to anything. But you said perfect World Cup. I just want to interject, and as I've mentioned before, perfect until the trophy lifting moment. But I don't know that maybe the GOAT debate will continue with this next generation. Unfortunately, someone like Haaland doesn't play for England. If he played for England, he would have been at this World Cup, and maybe he would have done like a Just Fontaine, and I think he bagged in 12 goals in one World Cup.
Calm down.
But again, Scandinavian as well. No, he was French. He wasn't Swedish.
He was French, but that was the Swedish World Cup in '58.
That's why I'm getting them conflated, conflated. Yeah. I need to. I'm losing a lot of my English vocabulary because I'm not speaking it enough.
Just blame it on the early morning over there, man.
That too.
The early morning pod.
Yeah, that too. But like, for instance, someone like Haaland, like, imagine he goes on and wins the World Cup with Norway, then is he the GOAT? And continues having breaking the records, and that he's currently on the road to breaking. But then Mbappe, he already has a World Cup. He has a World Cup final.
He has a pretty stacked France team. Even the next generation should still be stacked, I feel.
But like, he's what, 23, so he should definitely have 2 World Cups, with maybe a third, depending on what type of player he transforms into by the age of 35, if he plays till 35, because he's more. I know that now, like, with modern sports science, like, you have someone like, for instance, like someone like Nadal in tennis. Like, he was constantly getting injuries, and people were saying, like, he plays with that style where he's very physical, very aggressive, very hard-footed. I think, like, because he plays so physically, whereas someone like Federer, he was always graceful. So, and like, it felt like he was always floating across the court. So people always expected him to have the longer career, which I know the last 2 or 3 years, Federer, I know he technically retired when he was 41, but the last 2 or 3 years, I don't think he won anything. His last Grand Slam was 2018, which was 4 years ago. But Nadal is 37, and he's still winning Grand Slams. So, like, how will Mbappe adjust? We've seen Messi start to adjust, dropping back a little bit more into midfield, which we always expected him to do, especially after he started playing that false 9. So Mbappe, if he can win another World Cup, if he can win a couple of Champions Leagues, maybe he can throw himself into that hat as well. And if he can start bagging in 40, 50 goals a season, I think he's already getting 30 in all competitions. He's already getting 30 plus. But will he hit 90 in a season? Who knows? Well,
that one's hard. But
how old was Messi when he hit 90? Was he 26, 25? It was in 2012.
Yeah, it was like 24, 25, I think.
Yeah, so if Mbappe has 2 seasons to go to do it at the same age.
He's 24, I think, tomorrow or something.
Happy birthday, Kylian Mbappe. Shout out.
How depressed did he look?
Yeah, especially after giving him the golden shoe and then making him have to stand there and smile for the photo op. It's like,
I didn't smile.
And I was happy sort of did. He sort of did smile. Yeah, it wasn't a cheeky grin. It was just like,
yeah,
cool. Like it was a forced smile.
When you just to put about the Mbappe conversation, when you look at his resume already, oh man, I don't know, it might already be enough to put you in a sort of top 30, top 50 of all time already, and he's only 23.
Especially after you look at this golden shoe performance.
Yeah, 8 goals in a World Cup, and it takes him up to 12 in total, which is only four, I believe, off Miroslav Klose already.
Does he have 16?
16, I believe, is his number, yeah. So Mbappe, if he has if they're there next tournament and he has a good one, he could already eclipse that. But yeah, you look at that. I know I did a deep dive last year for the Champions League and 6 goals in the knockout stages. He's one of only a handful of players to do that in that season where PSG made the final in 2020 with less games as well. He might have already done it twice, 6 goals in the knockout stages. So he might have done it with that Monaco team as well, if I remember correctly. So his resume is already absolutely incredible, and he's still got his peak years ahead of him. I think there's still things he can improve on. Definitely the interplay, the way he plays with teammates, the sort of Messi-like quality, to your point of picking your moments, which he, I guess, somewhat already does because he walks when he doesn't have the ball. But maybe that's an evolution. Maybe he stops walking so much while he's still at an age where he can run. But yeah, I think there's 2 questions I want to ask you just to wrap up on the Mbappe, and it's, if you had $1 million, okay, and we'll do some over-unders. I give you $1 million. I give you $1 million to bet with. You've got to put it on. Yeah, okay. So the over-under is Kylian Mbappe World Cup finals, and I'll put the number at 0.5. So basically, will he be in another World Cup final in his career, or do you not think he will be? And where would you put your money on in that one?
I think he will be. You look at, you just look at the conveyor belt of talent that's coming through France. If you consider, Varane's going to be on his way out, but Saliba's on his way in, and everyone's saying Saliba looks and this is barring any injuries to this talent that's coming through, but Saliba looks like everyone's saying, he's a Rolls Royce defender. I don't even know what the hell that means. But
don't use it, but I like it.
I don't even I just started hearing that term being thrown around this season, and then they started tagging it to Rio Ferdinand and
that's what I was gonna say.
And Virgil van Dijk. Yeah. So you have someone like him. I think Kanate is 24, 25 as well. So he has
he's pretty young as well.
He has a World Cup or 2 in him.
Chouameni, obviously.
So you got Chouameni, you got Camavinga as well coming through. Yeah. Dembele is the same age as Mbappe, if I'm not mistaken. Coman as well, I think, is around the same age. So
he's pretty young.
Yeah, they have so many players that are around.
Theo's only 25 as well, I think.
Yeah, but so many players that are around Mbappe's age and that have most likely played together in the France under 21s, under 18s, under 17s together. So there's already that underlying chemistry that's probably there. I think it's a very high possibility that France make another World Cup final.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible because the counter argument, I agree with everything you just said. I think France, looking at it from 4 years away, must go into the next tournament as one of the favourites yet again.
Yeah.
If everything continues to progress along as you've been saying. But the counter argument is, there's so little margin for error. First, you have to qualify. You can't slip up through qualifying. Obviously, you don't expect them to slip up, but
what's the criteria for the next one? Because the next one's 48 teams, isn't it? 48 teams.
So maybe maybe it becomes even easier to qualify, obviously, but you still have to qualify. That's the first thing. And then in the tournament, you get to a stage where if you just have one little slip up in a game, you don't make it. And then you factor in injuries to either himself or other key players in the squad. So I think if I had all that money to put on, I would have a really tough time of saying whether he'll be in another World Cup final. I'd be tempted to lean yes, maybe more because I want to see him in another World Cup final. But it's still a tall ask, and to think that you could say there's a good chance that he'll be in another World Cup final is pretty crazy to say in itself. And the other one I wanted to ask was on a more individual level. The over-under number would be, I'll put it at 20.5. So do you think he'll score in World Cup goals throughout his career? Do you think he'll go over 20 goals or under 20 goals? He's on 12 in 2 tournaments.
Yeah, and he just needs to score 4 in each of the next 2 to reach 20.
Yeah. This is the one where I think I'd put it on the over.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, it depends also on, like, they're changing the structure of the next tournament. Like, it's rumored that it's going to be groups of 3 teams, I think.
I think if you make it all the way to the final, it's 1 extra game. I think that's how.
But I don't know what the structure of the next tournament is, because, like, for instance,
they don't know yet.
If it's a group of 3 teams, so you play 2 games. So if you draw both of them, you could get knocked out. I probably need to double check the maths of it, but if you draw both of them, you could get knocked out.
No, we've been saying we don't like don't like less teams.
Yeah,
we want more teams in a group, more margin.
Yeah, go if they can go. They can go 6. If they go 48 teams, they can go 8 groups of 6 teams. So you get 5 group games.
I don't know what they'll do, but basically you'll have a similar amount of games. So like, I don't think it influences the number that much. Yeah,
but it's still like, you know what? I think if they have 6 teams in each group, that actually gives 2 extra games if you make the final. So you actually play 9 games. This would actually be interesting to talk about. Maybe screw it, we'll do it now. But yeah, like, why not do 6 teams? That way you actually have margin for error. So for instance, a Belgium could have went through. So you would have seen, and I know you have your reservations on Belgium because, like, this is a generation that's aged and that's past their prime. Like, they had their chance to win the Euro in 2016 and also the World Cup in 2018. That's when they should have won a tournament. But it gives someone like them a chance to go through. Germany would have went through as well if it's a group of 6 teams. Was there another team that missed out, or was it only Belgium and Germany?
I don't know if they'd go through, but now you have a bigger sample size because if you're doing 8 groups of 6, it'll only be the top 2 who go through. So you're only getting a third. Yeah, that's
fine.
Through.
Yeah, that's fine. But you have more margin. You have more margin for error, and also, like,
well, you have more of a sample size.
Yeah,
you can see a little bit more because
And you know what? Like, it also gives teams a little bit more extra experience. Like with these national teams, it gives them a little bit more extra experience, and it gives them a little bit more time to enjoy the tournament by being there for 5 games instead of 3. So and I think it would actually provide for a little bit more tinkering and we would see a little bit more tactical adjustments as well. Like with this, it's like you either get it right or you don't. And we saw Belgium get it wrong. We saw Morocco get it right. We saw Germany get it wrong as well. Like, so there's literally no room for error. So I'd love to see groups of 6 at the next World Cup. That would be fantastic. If they're already going to increase it.
Yeah, I'm pretty down for that.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off, obviously, because only 1/3 of the group goes through. But, like, to your point, you get 2 extra games guaranteed, which I do like as well.
Yeah. But you know what else, though? Like, if they're going to increase to 48, like, that's 16 extra teams. Like, who are those 16 extra teams going to be? Like, it's going to be, like, run-of-the-mill sort of. All right, like, off the top of my head, Italy, they make it. Yeah.
Do they? Do they? When's the last time we saw Italy in a World Cup? 2014.
Italy
and
make
they weren't there for long.
Yeah, but like Italy make it. No, I know there's a war going on, but Ukraine and Russia make it. I suspect. Like Russia, they made the quarterfinals of the last World Cup. Ukraine are a pretty good team as well.
We're not going through every.
I'm not going through every. I'm not
48 teams.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to go through. I'm just asking like which out of teams that didn't make it. Like, what are some of the teams that could? So that's 3 already that could fill the spots. Egypt,
Scotland could finally get into one.
Scotland.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway,
Egypt. Like, I just want to go through really quickly. Like, spend a minute on it. But like, and then like, so like we've already gone through like 3 teams from Europe that would actually add to the tournament. They wouldn't make it. They wouldn't dilute it.
Would they add to it? Look, honestly, this World Cup, for me, only started. I know there was some like good shocks, and the last group stage games were great, but in terms of like the matchups we started wanting to see, they only happened in the quarterfinals onwards. Like before that, there was
but that would happen in any World Cup. Like you'd get like
but that's like to your point. We're getting 16 extra teams in. Like, who the hell are these 16 teams?
I know.
Because I thought already 16 teams who were at this World Cup were bang average, and I didn't really need to subject myself to watching them. So
that's what I'm asking.
It was great. It offered drama. But yeah, no, I get your point. I think that's my example of like how I get your point.
Yeah, I think I'm probably more on your side where like you're just like yeah, there'll be more games and probably more games that you're like, do I really want to watch this? But at the same time, like I'm asking the question, like who are going to take these spots to actually add to the tournament? And like I think we're both in agreement there. And then I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like I think Chile is one from South America, for instance, that missed out that would add to the tournament. I'm not really
probably
Colombia as well. I don't know who else. Like so that's like maybe 5 or 6 teams who would actually add to the tournament.
What about Bangladesh?
Let's move on. Are we done with? Are we wrapping up the World Cup final? We're done with that, so we can move on to
the bigger topic at hand. That massive game on that Saturday night.
It was actually a decent game.
It was a fun game.
But like when I was watching it, especially after watching the first half, I was like, why couldn't Croatia play like this against Argentina? They play with more energy. They play with more fluidity. They played more direct, and like that's. And I was sort of thinking about this. Like it's sort of like that the chicken and the egg argument. Like, did Croatia play like this because they had to make changes? So like that caused them to adjust the way they play, or did the changes adjust the way they play? Like if you get the question, like so what actually caused them to play differently? Or was it more the fact that this game has less pressure on it, so we can play a little bit more freely? Like, because in the semi-final, it did seem like the players were a little bit tense and a little bit more nervous. Like you saw Kovacic, Modric, and Brozovic, they seemed like they were slightly like mishandling, like or miscontrolling the ball, or slightly mispassing the ball as well. And even those like split seconds when even if you need to extend like 10 centimeters just to get your foot on the ball, you're losing a step. And it just seemed like that, and that can come down to like being half a second too slower in the brain. But yeah, like I was just thinking like it's a little bit of an opportunity missed, because if we played like this against Argentina, we probably could have won, or it would have been at least a more competitive game, at least scoreline wise, but it would have been a more competitive game as well. Like I'm not sure how competitive it was really.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I grapple with this one because like there's got to be a reason why teams can't play. Sort of why these free-flowing, attractive attacking teams who play with high energy, why it always seems that they can only reach a certain ceiling in tournaments. And I guess my theory and my conclusion is, to your point, the high pressure of the situation. Does that just tense up all the muscles and just make you... It's hard to say that step slower because you'd think for a high stakes situation, you'd be really wired. So you might be fidgety, but it never comes out that way. It always comes out like players are just tense and they can't, they're like running in mud a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, they're just so scared to make a mistake, so scared to try and do anything positive in those moments. So is that probably the reason why these high-powered attacking teams fall short at some stage of tournaments, normally quarters or semi-finals? So yeah, like it's one I grapple with because like it can't be the case that every manager wants to get to the quarterfinals and then just wants to tell his players, "Wait, today we're gonna play like absolute shit. We're gonna play scared. We're gonna play hesitant, and we're gonna play like crap." Like, well, it doesn't have to. Like, surely it doesn't have to be that way. So, my thinking is it just must be human nature, and when we get to the high stakes, it just has a physiological effect and obviously a psychological effect on players. So. Yeah, to your point, I think that was the main thing that made Croatia play in this way. But obviously,
the personnel changes as well.
Yeah, the
formation change too.
Yeah, so I thought it was a little bit of a 50-50 game as well, though, because Morocco were putting on a bit of pressure in the second half. Morocco didn't cover themselves in glory with the way they were acting with the referee in the third place game. I mean, that was unnecessary.
They soured their reputation a little bit, in my eyes.
Yeah, I guess at least they showed that they cared, but Croatia also showed that they cared and they won the thing and they didn't disgrace themselves. And then when you see a player like Luka Modric, who's won everything at the club game, celebrating like he did for a third place medal, I thought that was really good to see. I thought it was good to see that it normally turns out that the third place team actually do celebrate a little bit when they win that match. So yeah, like it's not a match I particularly like get into that much, but I always put it on because it's football, obviously. And I thought it was a fun match, and yeah, fair play to Croatia getting third place for. We'll say it again, a country of that size to every time they get into the knockout stages to make semi-finals at least. Simply incredible, and
to medal.
Lots of love, Luka Modric, of course.
No, but like not only make semi-final, but to get a medal. So like they finished third at the very least. But you know, I saw. I think it was Jeff Stelling. He was basically just like, and like I've seen a couple of English people say, scrap the third place game, like it's a worthless game, and then but like if you saw the celebration, like the of the arrival of the players yesterday. I think I sent some photos of at least how many people turned up. Like how many people turned up in like I think it got to -2 degrees. And like how many people turned up, and the atmosphere and like the joy of finishing third, like medaling at a World Cup. Like you're the third best nation on the planet. It's almost like we won the thing. Like it was just as big as us finishing second 4 years ago. And I don't know if it's this. I don't know if it's because we haven't won the tournament yet, or maybe it's because the English feel like, because I haven't necessarily seen it from media from other nations, but like maybe it's because the English feel like they're maybe above everyone. And they feel like, oh, if you don't win the tournament, then you don't win anything. They might have that sort of mentality. And the fact that we also won the World Cup in '66, they might have...
No, the English above everyone, the country that said they were too good to participate in the early World Cups and then promptly have only won one since. And that was a bit of a dodgy one when you think about that linesman's decision for the goal. Not them. Surely they don't think they're above everyone.
But like, yeah, like what's your take on? Firstly, like, what's your take on people now all of a sudden arguing to scrap the match, and also Do you think actually winning third place is actually more valuable than second place, or no, or at least it's celebrated more because you're actually coming home with a victory. You're not coming home with a loss. So it's like, I'm not saying it's like you'd rather finish. I don't. Then again, like finishing second means you lost the final. So like at least if you finish third, you've lost the semi-final, and then you've won the third place game. So it has a different feel to it. Like I don't know. Like what's your take on it? Like I'm a little bit torn. Not just because I'm Croatian, but because like would I rather lose a final and finish second, or would I rather lose a semi-final? You can answer
that. You just did it last World Cup. You've been through this exact situation. So which one did you prefer?
I don't know. I really don't know because if you see the amount of people that were like you've been to you've been to Croatia, like you've seen the main square in Zagreb, like it's a big main square, probably smaller than other countries, but like dude, that was packed. Like
I can imagine it would have been packed for 2018 as well.
Yeah, and that was during summer as well. Like so when when it wasn't freezing cold weather. But like, it was packed now for third place, and technically we've digressed because we finished second and then we finished third. But like it was still just as big a turnout. You've also made the trip. It's like a half-hour trip from the airport to the center, and like there was like pretty much like along. Like kilometers, there was lines of people just like setting off flares and fireworks while the bus went along the road, and it took them I think like an hour and a half from the airport to get to the center to change buses to an open top bus, and it's generally a half-hour trip from the airport to the center, and like. Yeah, like that's my point. So like, I don't know. What's your take on the third place match? Should it be scrapped? Should it not be scrapped? Is it better finishing third than second?
Not for me. I think I'd always rather the chance of at least winning it, even if it means heartbreak on the night. But I do get your point that you leave with a better feeling because you've just won your last game of the tournament. So, that's inherently better. But I think to offer a counter to that scrapping of the third place match, and I'm not saying I agree with that viewpoint, but I thought what was really helpful for this third place match was that it was between two nations that would have been very happy to finish third if you gave it to them at the start of the tournament. Whereas could you imagine if this match was between Argentina and France? It would have been the most depressing night ever, man. These two teams who would have been expecting to play the World Cup final, and they fall into Croatia or Morocco, and they're just here like, do we really need to play this game? I just don't think they would have taken nearly as much pride in the game if there were nations like that. So, but for me, these matches are always fairly entertaining. You can use it as an opportunity to rotate your squad. If you've brought someone young, you could give them a taste of that World Cup action, I guess. So I definitely don't see the negatives around it. I think it's worth playing. And then on the occasion where you get nations like Croatia and Morocco who are just happy to be at this stage, I think why would you take that away from them? So yeah, I don't think it should be scrapped. Whether you tune in or not, that's your prerogative. I understand if people don't want to tune into it, that's fine. Like it is, after all, not a meaningless game, but there is a very meaningful game the next day, which sort of puts it into perspective. So, but yeah, like I don't understand why you would need to take it, like get rid of it. I just don't get it really.
Yeah. I want to also ask you, now that Croatia, they've made 6 World Cups, they've medalled in half of them. Where does that put them on the list of? I don't know, like, because like, all right, when we did the preview for the whole World Cup, I think we put them down as a dark horse, And I think they probably will. I don't know. I think they weren't a dark horse for the 18 World Cup, but I don't think they were a favourite. They were probably somewhere in between. But now, like with the achievements that they made, and I guess the history that they're making, and with the young players that are coming through that look like it could be more of an established team, at least, or it looks like there's, from my perspective, who follows it more than non-Croatian people, it looks like there is a little bit of a conveyor belt of talent coming through, which is something that we haven't exactly had previously. So, like, where would you put Croatia amongst the other teams or other nations? Like, I wouldn't necessarily put them as a heavyweight, but I wouldn't necessarily put them as a dark horse either, because I think to become a heavyweight you need to win at least like your continental title and a World Cup, which, for instance, like a Spain has done now. So Spain is a heavyweight for me. France is obviously a heavyweight. Brazil is a heavyweight. Argentina is a heavyweight. England, I don't know. England, I think, is a heavyweight as well. They've always seen as in and amongst the favourites. But
a light heavyweight, maybe with Portugal. England and Portugal maybe in the same category, light heavyweight.
Yeah, but then, like, for instance,
maybe the Dutch are a light heavyweight as well.
Yeah, or instead of using heavyweight, you could say powerhouse, like a powerhouse of football.
I think there's tiers, because those ones like Argentina, Brazil, France, Germany, they're all Spain. Yeah. For me, they're heavy weights. Whereas, like, you look at Portugal.
But Spain's a weird one because they've only won one of each. Whereas, like, someone like Germany, they've won.
And that's recent as well.
Yeah, Germany won four World Cups.
4 World Cups,
yeah. Italy have won 4 as well.
They're a heavyweight as well, but obviously Italy won 2 of them pre-World War II. So I don't want to take them away, but that is a long time ago. I can't even get footage of those games, so like, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, but even so, like, where do you put Croatia now? Because, like, I wouldn't put us as a dark horse anymore, but I wouldn't put us I wouldn't even put us as a light heavyweight either.
No, I wouldn't either.
Or a powerhouse.
Definitely not a powerhouse either. Just because
of the
size of the country.
Something in between, a little bit of both.
I still put him as a dark horse, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's like, when you look at the dark horses I had going into this tournament, I don't think it's any surprise that they were Croatia and Uruguay, because they are 2 nations who I think are much the equivalent of each other, just in different continents. Small populations.
Yeah. Uruguay is another one that would have got out with a 6-team group.
Yeah. But yeah, both nations with small population both have this sort of conveyor belt, as you speak of. So, like, I don't think it's a bad thing to be called a dark horse, but yeah, I think you're still probably a dark horse just because of the league. Like, you don't have a particularly strong domestic league, obviously. The population, the history is now starting to come onto your side. But Uruguay also have history, and I probably wouldn't put them above a dark horse.
But you know what? If we're only a 30-year-old nation, like, we were only formed as the Republic of Croatia in 91, and then after we were formed, we actually had to fight like a 3 or 4 year war as well. So there was this, like, you could really say 95, I think. I need to recheck the exact dates and timelines of when things actually ended and whatnot, because there was obviously things going on in Bosnia and other countries as well. But if you actually go back to, like, previously to that, like, I know Yugoslavia is 6 nations, but, like, I think they made 2 World Cup finals, and they made 2 or 3 European Championship finals as well. Or do they make semis? Or do they make semis for World Cup? I think 2 or 3 times.
I don't think they've ever made a World Cup final.
Yeah, actually, no, yeah. I think it might have been semis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they might have made a semi. And then I think they've also made probably a couple of semis for the Euros.
I think they made 2 finals for the Euros.
Yeah, so...
if you want to include that, which I know technically it's maybe you don't, because it's like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 Croatians, and then like 3 or 4 or 5 Serbians, a couple of Bosnians. Like, it's a mix. But like, if you want to include that, like the at least this region, the history of football, like, oh yes, there wasn't any titles within that period, but they were always in and amongst there, like making quarterfinals, semifinals, finals of, various championships.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we still had a Yugoslavia, I think you'd be pushing closer to a heavyweight, because I think if they existed for the last 30 years, they probably would have broken through and made a final if you could call on the talent pool of 6 countries. I think that's a definite advantage, but Croatia's still for me just a dark horse, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's probably the 3rd tier, maybe the 4th tier, but like it would go like those absolute heavyweights, the ones just below, and then for me probably dark horse after that. So yeah, I wouldn't put Croatia with England and Portugal, for example, but I wouldn't put them very far off.
I don't know. I think I'd put them similar. I'd put England above Portugal, and I think I'd put Portugal and Croatia pretty similar together.
That's your prerogative. I still wouldn't quite do that. I just think the domestic league, I think the sort of history.
If you're including domestic league,
it's close.
Yeah, like we definitely need to improve on the domestic league. I think I heard one of the guys say that per capita of player or like of money in the EU that's invested into each player, like in their development, I think it's like in the EU it's €100 per player that's invested in their development. I'm not sure if that's per year or per their cycle, or however long because a lot of players they might play in juniors from like under 10s to under 16s, and they completely drop off. So I'm not sure how it's worked out, but it's €100, I think, or €110. In Croatia, I think it's €17 that's invested per player. So like we're investing 5 times less per player, and we're getting these results. So that just shows you how far behind we are in terms of where we should be, I think.
And that is interesting for World Cups going forward, to see if
maybe that gets rectified.
Well, no, it'd be interesting to see if the professionalization of international football sort of pulls all the talent to certain places, and especially when you can think that kids can move to academies now. So Leo Messi I'm pretty sure definitely could have qualified to play for Spain. Jamal Musiala, I'm pretty sure is English, but he's playing for Germany. And you're going to have more and more cases. Erling Haaland could have played for England. So we're going to have more cases of this. It'll be interesting to see if all that talent starts to pool into certain locations, and then the professionalization means that the countries with more money to invest are able to obviously have those advantages. And do we see less discrepancies between World Cup winners or World Cup finalists? That might be something interesting to look for in coming years.
Well, some of our players, for instance, like Kovacic, I think he was born in Austria, and I think he might have played a little bit of his, like, this is like junior, so like grassroots. He might have done some of his development in Austria. And then I think Sosa was born in Germany, so he had done some of his development there. I think Stanisic as well, who played right back in this third match. He'd done some of his development in Germany. I think Germany even wanted him, but we capped him first. Same as Sosa. I think they wanted him. But like, yeah, like
with some fullbacks,
huh? Yeah, but like
and then done with the fullbacks and Germans.
And then I think the Kovac brothers, they were both born in Germany as well, but they ended up obviously playing for England, but not for England, for Croatia. But I was gonna say, like, it's similar also with Australia. There's so many like Croatian or like Italian or whatever players that are choosing to play for Australia. But then I think Didulica and Šimunić, and I think there was one other player. They like came up through Sydney United and Melbourne Knights, but they ended up choosing to play for Croatia. So like, just because you're born somewhere doesn't mean that you... Like McAllister, like, I think Irish, Scottish parents, born in Argentina. Actually, was he born in Argentina, or did he just move there as a youngster?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure his dad was an Argentinian international, though.
But McAllister.
Yeah. I think he was. So maybe his parents were the Scottish ones. I don't know. Unless he played for Scotland. I don't know.
But like anyway. McAllister, for instance, like he... What is an Argentinian name, McAllister? Like, he has like that British heritage. So, yeah, it doesn't really matter what your background is or where you're born. Like, you can play for, like, Musiala plays for Germany. He could have played for England. You have the Williams brothers. One plays for Spain and one plays for Ghana, right?
Yeah, just like the Boatengs before.
Yeah, so
Germany and Ghana.
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Like, especially when you get brothers playing for two different nations.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, but anyway, Jeff Stelling, go fuck yourself. Trying to take away meaning from the third place game, just because you couldn't get past the quarters. So, yeah. Let's move on to the awards. Actually, did you want to talk about we've talked about the third place game in enough, but like, I just want before we get into awards. Before we get into awards, I do want to mention Lovro Majer though. I'm really impressed with him.
He's a good player.
And I know that Arsenal have been interested in, but he sort of reminds me of Ødegaard, especially in this game and in games that I've seen him. Like, he tends to pick up the ball in those spaces that Ødegaard finds himself in, like between the midfield and forward lines. So I'm not sure if, for instance, Arsenal, who are rumoured to have been interested in him, if they do pick him up, I don't know, like, is he like a long-term replacement for Xhaka, or is he a sort of on and off replacement for Ødegaard, which means he isn't starting, whereas now for Rennes, I think he is a starter. But yeah, I think he's a fantastic talent, and hopefully he can continue on the track that he continues on at the moment. But yeah, I feel it's an opportunity missed, considering we didn't play like this in the semis. Anyway, we'll get on. Let's finish off the pod, unless there's any other topics that you want to hit before we finish off with our awards and our team of the tournament. So, I think you mentioned you're happy with Enzo Fernandez getting Young Player of the Tournament.
Yes.
I don't think I am.
My pick.
I don't think I am. My pick would have been Guardiola. Played every single minute, every single game. I think his only one bad moment was against that moment against Messi.
Where he had two. He was half to blame for the first goal. Between him and Lovren.
I think it's more Lovren, especially when you consider that the right and left backs push up with Guardiola as well, and Lovren is the only one dropping back. Yeah. So I think it's more Lovren. If it was the other way around, where the left and right backs dropped back with Lovren, then I think Guardiola's the one out of position. Like this, Lovren's the one out of position. So I think he's the one more to blame.
I'm not going to argue too much with Guardiola, but what tips Enzo over the edge for me is he played for the winning side.
Yeah,
played it simple to be, and Guardiola was somewhat a factor in why Croatia weren't in the final as well, even though he was a main factor why they were in the semi-finals as well.
But was there any other young players that you might have given this to? Like, obviously, we're going to focus on...
criteria? Do you have the criteria in front of you?
I don't know. From what I can see, and also I think, did we mention it with the goalkeeper award in the last pod where it's based on clean sheets? Apparently it's not. Apparently it's based on a handful of journalists or judges that just decide it. So it's not even based on clean sheets or goals conceded. Because I was going to say, I know Emi Martinez was the hero of 2 penalty shootouts, but I wouldn't have given it to him. I would have given it to the Morocco keeper or to Livakovic.
Nah, I would have given it to Martinez as well.
I don't think I would have.
He made crucial saves at crucial moments in the knockout stages. And
if you
more crucial than that save of Kolo Muani in the last minute of extra time tonight.
I still don't think if you're looking at just the final, yeah, sure, but he still conceded. 3 goals in the final, conceded goals in almost every single game as well. I don't have him up there. I would have given it to Bono or to Livakovic. I thought they had, as a whole, a better World Cup. As a goalkeeping performance, I would have given it to one of those two. And then some people putting Pickford as their Golden Glove winner.
I don't think so. I don't think so on that
I think for these awards, you need to at least make the semis to be in the contention for team of the tournament. Or I know, like, for instance, like Bellingham, if he made the semis, he would have made like the final 11, and we'll get to our 11 of the tournament. But like, that's why I say semis, because you can't just have the 2 teams that make the final making up the team of the tournament, because it's like, yeah, like, sure, like, you made the final, one of you won it, one of you lost it, but there's players that made the semis that played better, and they still, and so yeah, for me,
disagree with that. I just disagree with you saying that players played better than I thought all the award winners are right. To be quite honest, I thought they went to where they should have gone.
I just think with the goalkeeper one, giving it to the Morocco keeper or to the Croatian keeper, I think that would have been just. And I think that would have been like as deserving. And probably more deserving, actually. And then also, young player, I would have given it to Guardiola. And that's a zero Croatian bias there. I just think he had a fantastic tournament. I think the criteria for that is you need to be under 21 years of age. So Mbappe wouldn't have been qualified for it.
I don't think it's 21.
I read that it was 21.
Okay. Maybe Enzo's just on the cutoff then.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he turned 22 this year. So, like, I don't know. And maybe he turned 22 after June. And because the World Cup is meant to be in June, maybe they qualify. I don't know. That's why I got my confusion. I think the commentator said Molina, so maybe Molina said because the commentator said Molina, he's the one that got confused, which is why I was like, why is Molina getting the young player of the tournament? But was there any other young players that maybe should get a shout out at all?
Well, sure, many. I think
Alvarez
would be a good. Alvarez, another one,
because he displaced Martinez as well. Well, he made himself.
Martinez was a bloody train wreck this tournament. That chance right at the end, the header. Oh my god, he was awful this tournament. Wow, so far off the form that he showed it into. But yeah, I think if we're going by semi-finals and finalists rule, I think they're probably the only other guys we could give a shout out to.
Yeah, sure, many Alvarez, Guardiola. And then your boy Fernandez that took it away. So, but you're happy with those awards?
I'm happy. I'm happy with all those awards. I thought they were good.
I don't know. I feel like the other guys had more of a shout, to be honest.
Again, that's your prerogative. I don't agree.
It's a subjective award. I think the Golden Glove used to be based on clean sheets, and probably like you had to make the quarterfinals at the very least, I think. Because didn't Courtois win it at the previous one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so Courtois won it, and he only got 3rd place. So, like, there's an argument for why.
No, that's fine. Yeah. That's fine. I just think Martinez was actually better. Like, that's just what I think. I think he was more crucial in more crucial moments.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Anyway. We'll disagree to agree. So you agree with that? I've mentioned my shouts for who should have gotten the awards. Let's get into our team of the tournament. So we discussed this before. We're going in this like not having prepared it. Disclaimer. But
this will be great. But
since we're not doing like what we usually do and what you usually suggest of doing 3 teams. We're not doing that. We're just doing one combined team instead of 3 teams individually. So one combined team, and we each have the power for one veto.
Are you saying you don't like my 3 teams? Bloody hell!
it's really
because I think
it gets really long. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, no, for the pod, I agree for the pod, but like I like it because often I find the third team more fascinating to pick than the first two. Because normally you have pretty obvious options, and then when you get to the third team, I'm just like, ooh. And if you can't get them in that team, you can't get them in anyway. So anyway, but the World Cup, we only need one team. It's all good.
All right. So look, I know who you're gonna put as the keeper.
Yeah,
but like, this is interesting. Like, because we have one veto each. Like, it's all right. But like, also there needs to be an added. There will be an auto veto rule. So, for instance, you can't put in someone who's completely undeserving into the team.
To have them vetoed.
Yeah, just to make them be vetoed. So, like, you can't put.
That's all right, man.
You can't put like.
We'll respect the integrity.
Yeah,
come on.
So yeah, okay. So, do you want to start off with goalkeeper? I've already we've sort of touched on it now. Like you're going to say
going first.
You're going to say Martinez,
and we're going from back to front.
Actually, no, I'm going first.
Okay, you go first. Do we veto at the end or at the time?
You have to veto at the time. So that's why. That's why it becomes tactically interesting of when you want to veto.
Okay.
But if good. Yeah, you have to veto at the time.
All right, go on. You're picking first then.
Yeah, Livakovic as the goalkeeper. Look, you can't.
Like he was good. He was.
You can't argue.
He was good. He was good.
You can't argue that he did not have as an astounding World Cup. Like he broke the record, or equaled the record for the most saves in a penalty shootout in a World Cup, right? In the Japan one where he made 3 saves. He also then he saved 4 penalties in the shootout because he saved Rodrigo's one. Obviously, Marquinhos, did he miss? Marquinhos missed, so that wasn't a save. Yeah. So I think he has the same amount of penalty saves as Martinez in shootouts.
Yeah, that's fine. That's.
And then also if you consider the Brazil game, how many saves he made in that game. Exactly, and you can't say that you can't necessarily say that he was poor against Argentina because he still did make some saves against Argentina. And I'm not saying that Martinez was poor either, but I just think that Livakovic had much more crucial and better saves. And he copped less. He copped less goals. He conceded less goals as well.
Yeah, I don't agree with your selection, but it's not egregious enough to veto it because Livakovic did have a good tournament.
I was thinking Bono because Bono conceded 5 goals and one of them was an own goal. So I think I think out of the 4 keepers that have made the semis, that have played 7 games. Actually, Bono didn't play in, I think, the 2nd or 3rd game of the group stage, but that have played up until the semis. I think Bono's conceded the least out of the 4 keepers.
Yeah, I don't remember him doing that much memorable.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have a bad tournament. He didn't have an outstanding one. I think Livakovic and Martinez are better shouts.
He did have a penalty shootout win. I think he saved 2 as well in that shootout against Spain. So... But yeah, I think Livakovic had more moments than Bono.
Where are we going now? Right back or centre back?
Up to you.
Oh, it's up to me. Oh, can I pick anywhere on the pitch?
You can pick anywhere in the back 4.
Oh,
let's try to keep some order to it. Let's not go to forward and then to midfield, and then to forward and then to defense.
Yeah. I got you. Ooh. That's a tough one. Oh man, this kind of pains me to do it. All right. I'll go with Raphael Varane. I thought he was a bedrock for that French defense. Had to be because the French played the way they played. Was the calming presence. Had to play next to somewhat of a hindrance in Upamecano at times, especially defensively. So yeah, I'll go with Varane.
Just trying to think if there's any other centre backs of the 4 teams. Yeah, I don't, or even in the quarters, like you
could go back to
quarters. I saw Sky Sports put Maguire in their team of the tournament.
Like, decent this tournament, but not team of the tournament.
Not.
I think Varane and Guardiola are definitely above him at least.
Yeah, so look, I'm picking Guardiola as his partner. Imagine that as a partnership, as well.
Not bad.
It's a good partnership, especially the Varane that's showing up recently. But did he come off with an injury or was it just tiredness?
I don't know. Actually,
that would be interesting.
He looked knackered.
Yeah, he looked like he just collapsed in like what was the 118th minute or something. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm going Guardiola as his partner in crime. Like I think that's without a doubt.
Yeah.
The pick. Like I don't think there's anyone else out of the 4 teams or even out of the 8 teams that made the quarters who put in a better performance defensively. Like individually defensively.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Romain Saiss was pretty good until he got injured, but yeah,
romantic.
Probably not on their 2 levels.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go Achraf Hakimi at right back then. That's a bit of a no-brainer. I think he has higher levels than what we've seen at this World Cup, but I think he was pretty solid defensively, helped going forward. He's a physical specimen, was part of a really solid defense that you just pointed out how few goals they conceded in the tournament.
And like going forward as well, him and Ziyech on that right-hand side, that was dangerous.
Yeah, I still think he can be better. And when I saw him in his Dortmund days, I thought he might be a level above where he is now. I think he's somewhat stalled, but he's still immensely good for a fullback as well. So, yeah, for Morocco's run and for him being a pretty key part in it, I put him at right back.
Yeah. Oh, then he's left back. Who do I want to put there? Because Acuna, for instance, he was good, and then like he missed out on the semis, and then he
was okay.
Yeah, he was good, but he missed out on the semis, and he played the last 40, 50 minutes of the final, and then he didn't really impress me in the final at all. Like he was just like, eh. Theo Hernandez. He didn't play up to it. The only thing is he didn't play up to his level.
Yeah,
and then
he still might be the choice when I think about it. Like I don't know who else I'm putting at left back.
Yeah, because like the only other one who's the Moroccan left back?
Well,
I'm not too familiar with the names, so no disrespect.
Yeah, Mazraoui started, but obviously he was injured for the semis, and he was pretty injured for the quarters as well. I'm pretty sure.
And then, like for instance, Croatia, Borna also, he's okay, but I don't think he makes the team of the tournament for me.
I think it's still Theo, and I think and the thing that pushes it over the edge is that opening goal in the semi. But to your point, he can play a lot better.
That's the thing, like sort of with your Hakimi point, like where his ceiling is a lot higher. But this also might be Deschamps.
You could call him what you want on this pod after what he dished out of the World Cup. The chumps. To be fair, he's won a World Cup as a captain and a manager.
Yeah, and made another final. And he was a penalty shootout away from winning another final.
Right, I retract my comment.
And he won a European Championship as well. He was part of that 2000 squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like for instance, like with Theo, did he have the shackles on him, and was Deschamps asking him to play more like Lucas rather than Theo? So like, but that might have been a reason why he was underwhelming comparing him to his AC Milan performances, because the instructions are different. So that's why I guess that's the only reason why we're having this debate of trying to see if there's anyone else, because he just didn't live up to his potential.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just... who was the Brazilian left back? It was like... Nah.
It was like Alexandro to start the tournament, but then it was Danilo
and
by
then
the end.
Cancelo was barely playing, and then he played right back and left back, and like
you could maybe say Rafael Guerreiro from Portugal. I thought he was pretty good, but I'd still go Theo.
Yeah, I think
by default.
Yeah, I think I'll still go Theo, even though he wasn't still at his peak. All right, yeah, I'll go Theo. So that was my pick.
Okay. So many options in the midfield. I think it kind of has to stay between semi-finalists and finalists for the midfield, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it does. Oh, there's too many even there, though.
There's way too many shouts.
There are too many shouts. Oh, man.
Because, for instance, like Amrabat for Morocco. Yep. Jeez. Schuameni. Then you got the 3 for Croatia. Maybe not Brozovic.
He was two, I was going to say.
He's similar to Theo, where he didn't... Probably because he like Theo, he was carrying an injury going into the World Cup. So he still played at a decent level, but like slightly below what you'd expect.
All right, I'm going to do it because of importance, because I think he was so crucial to the winning side. I'm going to put Enzo in there.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I'm not gonna...
And I want to leave the Croatian decision to you, because I want to see who you pick. Because I think it's a toss-up. It's a tight one.
It's a toss-up between Kovacic and Modric.
Yeah.
Because Kovacic was the one that would... he would drive with the ball more through the lines than Modric, but Modric would still do it. He didn't do it as much as what he would do it.
Well, it was normally Modric playing that little pass around the corner for Kovacic to burst through the lines. Yeah.
I'd still have to go Modric because I think he's still the better of the two. So wait, so is Enzo sitting for you?
How, it might be. It depends how
are we doing?
I pick with my next one.
We didn't even decide on a formation. Like, are we going a 4-4-2? Or are we going a 4-5-1? Like,
I guess we'll find out when we go to the front line. I'm pretty sure it'll be 4 at the back though, because
we were going 4 at the back.
Even just trying to get defenders into the team, we started struggling when we got to left back. So
yeah,
I think that's a safe bet. But it could be a narrow diamond in there with 2 up front. It could be anything when we get to that point. So I guess it's my pick.
Yep.
Wow. See this last midfield.
Yeah, the last one's tough.
Could be the last midfield position.
But here's the thing though, like Amrabat was a little bit more defensive, Enzo's a little bit more defensive, and Modric was sort of playing half as an 8, half as a... Is it a 4? Defensive mid? A 6, yeah, 6. So like he was sort of playing as something in between a 6 and an 8. So like... Man. You have 3 players that actually take more of a defensive role, but they can... I think they're very similar.
They're also multifunctional.
Yeah.
I think they can do anything. You could throw Schuameni into that mold as well. Amrabat's probably the one where he'd have to sit if he got into the team.
Yep.
Man.
Okay, so who is there left? Who like...
I guess...
Look, DePaul is a decent shout-out as well, and McAllister.
Yeah, DePaul didn't play well enough on the ball, and McAllister was too much of a sort of helper player. He was a glue guy, but he didn't stand out enough for me, I don't think. I'm almost tempted. I am almost tempted to put Mateo Kovacic next to Luka Modric.
Then you got Kovacic as well.
Then that's the midfield 3 with Enzo just behind it.
So Kovacic...
I think Amrabat's been fantastic, but I don't know, maybe there's this little thing where it's just because it's Kovacic and I trust him more just as an overall player, whereas Amrabat's maybe just had a fantastic tournament. But at the same time, we're basing it off the tournament. But I can't split these choices because Tchouaméni's a great shout as well. I thought he was pretty fantastic. Now I'm gonna go with Kovacic. I'm gonna put him in that midfield three.
Well, you're obviously not gonna get a veto from me, but
yeah, I know.
but yeah, like that's.
If you had to pick though, who would you go with?
They're so all 5 of the ones that we've given a shout out to. So there's 5 midfielders that need to occupy 3 spots. So the 2 that are missing out right now are Amrabat and Tchouaméni, and they're all multifunctional. They all play a similar role. Amrabat's probably the most defensive out of them. But
we failed to mention that we've already disqualified any midfielders that didn't make it to the semis, at least. Yeah, there were some good midfielders who didn't make it, like Bellingham.
Yeah.
And, I could even give a shit.
Actually, no, Spain got eliminated at the round of 16.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I could even give a cheeky shout out to Jamal Musiala, who I know they got knocked out in the group stage, but he was pretty I thought he was pretty fantastic.
You also got Bruno Fernandes as well.
Bruno had a pretty good start to the tournament, at least. Yeah, for sure.
Not just start, like the performance against Switzerland was very good as well. Didn't he get he get a goal
until the quarters?
Yeah,
he was quite good.
Yeah, until Amrabat put him in his pocket.
You gotta. If you had to pick one, who would you pick? Who's your final pick?
I think just because you're having Enzo probably a little bit more defensive of him, I think I'd pick Kovacic because I think he's the only one of the 5 that has the best ability to break the lines with the ball.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So your pick, what do you want to do with this front line? I'll be interested to see. There's at least one who just absolutely... There's probably 2.
There's 2 that...
So there's 2 that really just one spot we're picking.
There's 2 that are automatic. So the 2 automatic, it just depends how you want to line them up. But Messi's obviously there, but do you want to play a diamond and put Messi as the 10 and then play with 2 up front? Or do you want to put Messi... See, Messi hasn't played a false 9 for years.
So we'll put it out there right now. Messi and Mbappe are in the team?
Yep.
All right. Pick that last position and let's see if I agree with it. I'll rack my brain. We'll go through the shout. We'll go through who we think has a chance. I think Ziyech would have a good shout.
Yeah.
As one of the wingers.
Yeah, definitely.
Although that's Messi's somewhat position, but you could play Messi as a false 9 and Mbappe and Ziyech either side.
Yep.
Julian Alvarez maybe is a shout as well.
I think he's a big shout. With 4 goals as well as a 19-year-old. That's what Mbappe got last tournament. He got 4 goals as a 19-year-old.
Ooh. You know what we've done in midfield?
What?
We overlooked the guy who I said might be a little overstated, but he did play central midfield for this tournament. Griezmann would be a good shout for that Kovacic role as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was a big oversight by us. Jeez. That's a toss-up now, because now you get your question somewhat answered because you get a different skill set from Griezmann to the other 2.
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't know. I still prefer Kovacic in possession.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so in this tournament.
And I think he has a better defensive work rate as well. I know Griezmann is...
Did you see the way he just let Messi run for that iconic Messi goal against Guardiola?
I'm not looking hang on. But look, I'm not looking too much into that Argentina performance because the whole team was poor, especially when if you compare the games either side of that game. So you compare the Morocco game and the Brazil game, they're night and day compared to the Argentina game. If we played with the same intensity and energy that we played in either of the Brazil or Morocco game, we might have had a better chance of beating Argentina, but we definitely would have lost 3-0. I know we've already discussed it.
We've already done too much Croatia.
The same thing if Australia did really well. We'd spend a lot of time on Australia.
I guess we could get Griezmann into a front 3 if sort of that number 10 and Messi play next to him. I guess maybe. So Ziyech, maybe Griezmann, Julian Alvarez. Who else have we got? Absolutely no Croatian attackers.
And Perisic could get a shout, but but you could put him at left back.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. He did play left back against Morocco.
Cody Gakpo gets a shout.
He's a good shout. Yeah.
Any Brazilian forwards get a shout? Probably not.
Nah.
Maybe Richarlison? Nah, probably not.
You know what? Like, I reckon Tite should have went with Jesus instead of Richarlison because Richarlison was coming back from an injury.
Jesus got injured, remember?
Yeah, but he
from the start.
But he got if Jesus was probably playing from the very beginning, maybe like the timeline of events would have been different, and Jesus doesn't get injured. But Richarlison was carrying an injury and just coming back, as the tournament was beginning. So he was almost a doubt for this tournament. So had Tite have gone for Jesus, maybe Brazil would have lined up differently. Maybe, yeah.
Ifs and buts.
Ifs and buts. I don't think I'd put Richarlison in there. He didn't impress me. Like, yeah, he popped up with 3 goals, but he didn't light it up. Whereas someone like Alvarez got really important goals.
You could definitely put Bukayo Saka.
Giroud
in there. Giroud you could put in there as well.
Finally scored some World Cup goals.
Is that all of them? Any Portuguese players who can fill that position?
No. Like
no, I don't think so
is it Gonzalo? He only had 1 game that he got a hat trick in.
No. Yeah, Ramos can't go in, even though he had 1 great game. Maybe performance of the World Cup. He's in the running for, but Messi, Mbappe, and for me, I'm actually tempted to say it's Saka.
Just so you can go with the front 3.
Yeah, Messi is a false 9. You could do that. It'll work because they're all such good players, but I think Bukayo Saka was excellent this tournament. And I know England lost that game, but I thought he had his best performance against France.
Yeah.
He was probably outstanding. Gakpo is a good shout as well. I think he was pretty outstanding for the Dutch and carried them offensively for big periods of the tournament.
See, I don't know if I want to veto that and put Alvarez in there because I think Alvarez is more deserving than Saka, and I think he's been more impactful for Argentina than what Saka was for England.
Fair, I guess.
But then it just depends.
I don't agree with it, but I wouldn't.
That obviously changes the formation into more of a diamond in the midfield. You put Messi as the 10, and then you put Mbappe and Alvarez up front, or you can input Alvarez.
Is that what you got? Is that what you're going with? Because damn, I wish I vetoed Livakovic and put Martinez in because I didn't veto anyone else.
Yeah, I said you can't veto at the end.
For the record, that's my view. Let's finish it. What's the choice?
Screw it. We'll go with no vetoes. We'll go with Saka on the right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is our team of the tournament done on the fly.
Yeah. So Livakovic. Who's our right back again?
Hakimi.
Hakimi,
Varane
and Guardiola. Theo Hernandez.
Theo by default.
Yeah. Enzo.
Modric, Kovacic.
And
Mbappe, Messi, and Saka across the front.
Was it?
And the manager is Didier Deschamps. We're going to play pragmatic, guys.
We'll use our veto there.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, technically, we could veto. So, if I say the Moroccan manager, then you're going to veto that, and then I can veto your one, and then I can put Dalic in there. No, but I think we can both.
I'd go along with Regrawi or however you say it. Though.
I think we can both go with Scaloni though, because Scaloni, you can see that
he was good.
You can see that he changed things as game for each different, I think he changed things in every single game in terms of personnel or formation. But you can see how from the Saudi Arabia game to the Mexico game, he changed things up because he saw that things weren't working. I think Lautaro Martinez started, was it every group game, or did Alvarez start the third group game? But he basically he threw Lautaro out, so because he saw that wasn't working after that, because he started the Mexico game. I know that.
Yeah.
So like he threw him.
Yeah, the personnel changes, he definitely deserves credit. The tactical changes deserves credit to twist with them. When it's probably easier to stick with what you've been doing that got you into the unbeaten run, as it were. I mean, he also deserves credit because he's clearly, he has no reason to be, but he's not a manager who let his ego get in the way of anything that Argentina could have accomplished. He was very much complimentary rather than fighting against anything. And sometimes that's the greatest quality of a manager, just to not get in the way too much. And just to understand that these players should be trusted, and he trusted them with that, built the spirit, and just seems like a good person to work for. I don't know him personally, but it just seemed that way, and the players sort of responded to that. So sometimes that's 95. In fact, I'd say most of the time. There's a reason why I rate Carlo Ancelotti as maybe the best manager in European club football, maybe definitely one of the best ever. And that's because he understands, I don't need to let my ego get in the way here. I have excellent players. I've just got to let them go out and do what they do to the highest ability and just facilitate that. So sometimes that's the battle. Most of the time that's the battle, and he needs to be commended for how well he did there.
Yeah.
And that's finishing the Argentina love and probably putting a nice bow on what we've seen.
Yeah, so I think that's a wrap for... just final thoughts. This World Cup, are you happy with the World Cup as an entirety? Like how the spectacle? I think it's one of the better World Cups that I've actually watched. Like in terms of the performances of the teams as well, how everything was scheduled and put on. You didn't really hear like at the very beginning. You heard there was still carryover in terms of like not protests, but like, like why does Qatar get it? Like, you can't wear this, you can't say this, blah blah blah. But then as the tournament actually opened and as it went on, like people focused on the football, and I was actually quite impressed with the tournament as a whole until they ruined it with the trophy moment.
I'll only speak to the football because I guess if you get into the politics, my viewpoint on that is there's always pros and cons to everything.
Yeah, but football.
The cons were very glaring at this World Cup. I understand that. They were right in your face. But the next World Cup's going to be held predominantly in the US. And we know about the US's problems. So let's not get down too high on our moral high horse in terms of, why the hell is this happening here? And it happens everywhere. Some places just more subtle than others, in my viewpoint. I'm sorry. But, in terms of the football, I thought it was pretty excellent. Like I said, this was probably the best World Cup I've seen since 2006. I started getting a little punch drunk towards the end with the semis in particular, because I thought they were a little bit anticlimactic. But then the final this morning just was an exclamation mark on some pretty, I wouldn't say exceptional football, because I think we can agree with there's some teams we've been critical of and some teams who could have played to a higher ceiling if they just opened up a bit more. But dramatic football, narrative lined football. It was full of narratives everywhere you looked, full of stars. I think the imperfections of a World Cup and international football made this even more charming than maybe you'd see in the club game. I think it's just a purer form of football, and I think we saw that in this World Cup, and it just culminated in what I've already described as a perfect final. So, yeah, pretty happy with this World Cup on the whole, and I'm very interested to see what happens over the next 4 or 5 months when they all return back to their clubs and we finish off this wacky ass season.
Yeah, hopefully with an Arsenal victory of the Premier League. Caleb, it's been a pleasure. The World Cup has It's been a wild ride. It's been a good wild ride. And it ended in fantastically dramatic fashion for the neutral. Heart attacks for the French and the Argentinians. So, to all our Argentinian listeners, the two of them, maybe more in the future. Congratulations. Congratulations to Messi on, I guess, becoming the GOAT as well. And to everyone listening and sticking with us for the...
And to Argentina.
I've said Argentina, right?
Congratulations to the rest of the team as well. Congratulations to them. Give them their respect.
To everyone that deserves a congratulations. Well done. If you stuck with us for this far, make sure you subscribe, you comment, you like, you share, and all that good stuff. I think we'll also hit the notification bell. So when I don't know where the hell it is, it's somewhere there underneath the video. Make sure you hit it so that there's notifications when we do upload. And until next time, shit, I forgot my catchphrase again. Caleb, sign us off.
Thanks for listening, and bye for now.